The 1979 Fastnet race was the 28th Royal Ocean Racing Club's Fastnet race. It's a 605 nautical mile course from Cowes, Isle of Wight to Fastnet Rock, and then a dash back to Plymouth. The fleet encountered a storm on the third day, and it caused mayhem, havoc to the 303 yachts which entered the race. And the storm was mainly, I'd say, 3/4 of the way. It was quite close to Ireland where they hit the worst of it. And unfortunately, there was 19 fatalities. 15 yachtsmen and 4 spectators died. There was a spectator boat just like taking pictures, just following the fleet, and they obviously got caught up in it as well. And it was it was the largest peacetime rescue operation undertaken through the naval forces, emergency services, RNLI, civilian vessels, and yeah, it was the largest peacetime rescue effort. So the race started on the 11th of August. The weather forecast said southwest winds forced 4 to 5, gusting to 6 to 7 for a time. That was the initial sort of forecast. So they were expecting sort of quite reasonable sailing conditions, really, for those sort of size boats and the experience of the crews. And they'd be looking to make record-breaking times. And we'll go into that a little bit later on. And so this large depression known as Low Y formed over the Atlantic around the 11th and 12th of August. On the 13th of August, it intensified rapidly, turned northeast woods, about 200 miles southwest of Ireland. Yeah, reaching about 200 miles southwest of Ireland. So by the 14th, the low was centred over Wexford. Strongest winds out to sea over the race area. Force 10, force 11. So this is just a diagram of just which the way the wind was going, the direction of the storm, and they just literally bang straight into it, and they're just out in the middle of the ocean, and in quite good sort of seaworthy yachts, I would say. I mean, they're still racing today. That's what good the build quality was. They're still in use today. The same vessels which were in that storm. So the lowest pressure was recorded at 979 HPA. So of the 303 yachts, 24 were abandoned, 5 sunk, and the Royal Navy and lifeboats picked up 125 yachtsmen. And as I say, 15 yachtsmen perished. 75 boats capsized and 5 sank. And just in this picture here, you can see the size of the swell. This is actually that was actually a photograph from the actual the storm itself, as it was just sort of brewing, so to speak. See the size of the waves there. Apparently, yachts that deployed the storm tactic heave to managed to sort of escape unscathed, and that's a technique they use to point the yacht into the sea, or just to sort of its nose into the sea a bit with the rudder tilted and the sails at a certain direction, and it's sort of yeah. I mean, apparently that works. So yeah, those yachts which deployed that technique, that was okay. So anyway, so the handicap winner was a design by Sparkman Stevens. They do some lovely yachts, and it was called Tenacious. So they were the handicap winner, and the winner on time was a 77-foot SV Condor, skippered by the late Peter Blake. He was a New Zealander, and I think he got caught up in some sort of piracy situation, gunfight out in Brazil or something, where he was unfortunately shot, but he was a real hero back in New Zealand. This picture is just of another yacht rescuing people in the middle of the night. This shows how desperate things had got, and some of the damage to the yachts. 5 sunk, and this is, look at the keel. See the size of the seas where they're rolling over. So other notorieties in this story is the RNLI vessel Solomon Brown, which was involved in the infamous Penley lifeboat disaster 2 years later. So they were actually involved in the search and rescue, and I think I'm not sure, but I think they likely towed some vessels back into the UK mainland, places like Penzance, I would imagine. So the vessel Condor of Bermuda broke the record by nearly 8 hours. So they said it was sort of going to be record-breaking conditions. So the bigger 77 foot. So the bigger vessels generally get ahead of everybody else quicker and can cope with the storm better and get away from the storm better. And that was in a time frame of 71 hours and 37 minutes 23 seconds. So yachts succumbed to damage like broken masts, rudders. They had to be towed, or they were abandoned, or they'd sunk. Crew were rescued by helicopter, Royal Navy helicopter. Knockdowns and retired. Crew rescued by the yachts. So places where they were towed by civilian vessels like the RNLI were Courtmacsherry in Ireland, Penzance in England, Plymouth in England, Kinsale and Cork. And the Royal Navy had several warships out there involved in the rescue. I think HMS Broadsword was out there, and 15 Royal Navy helicopters, the Wessex, the Lynx and Sea Kings, all carried out an array of sorties there. And they were all key contributors to the rescue. And the Land's End Maritime Rescue Centre was involved. Falmouth one was, the Brixham one was, and the Shannon one was as well. And lifeboats from the Isle of Scilly, from Baltimore in Ireland, right in the bottom end of Ireland there, right where the Fastnet Rock is, they were involved. Courtmacsherry lifeboat, the Watford, and the Solomon Brown was involved as well. This picture here is a picture of a lifeboat sort of crashing through those seas. That's an actual picture from the Royal Navy, and I think that is actually one just like the Solomon Brown. That's about 39 foot, and you can see how that's sort of struggling. It's got like a snorkel above, as you can see on there, and that's its exhaust. So it has to keep it up high, you see, to stop water from getting in there. This is another vessel sort of with a storm jib out, and he's just sort of making his way. The sea looks like it's calmed down a bit there, but this was the 28th Royal Ocean Racing Club's Fastnet race, and I think they're at like sort of 50 something now. 600 mile course from Cowes and the Isle of Wight to the Fastnet Rock, which is just off Baltimore there. Then they go back into Plymouth, and it's just like must have been just like diabolical weather. But I mean, there's some real fantastic stories of heroism by other yachtsmen on other boats who went in the middle of the night, who are rescuing other people who are in life rafts and all this sort of stuff. So it's but truly it's very similar to the Sydney Hobart race, where the fleet are caught out in it, and it's very difficult to be rescued in time in such severe conditions. So 75 boats capsized, 5 sunk, and yachts which use the storm tack heave to manage to they're the ones which sort of manage to survive. When you decide to heave to, you're often you're stopping, you're almost like quitting the race really, and you're just heading into the sea, you know, to ride it out almost, to protect your boat. And in the middle of the night, in a storm like that, I mean, even doing that would scare the life out of you. And you'd think, have I made the right decision or not? You know, but it's you just go with experience. And yeah, so the record on this particular race was beaten by 8 hours. So it's that's quite an achievement there. And so it's low Y was the large depression, and it's just considering the starting out forecast they had was force 4 to 5, 6 to 7 for a time, you know. But I suppose back then in 1979, you know, there's no mobile phones, or okay, you've got VHF radio, but you're sort of committed. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, you really are. But here's a shot of the looks like the winners from the 2021 race there, and truly magical experience, I would imagine, to be involved in a race like that. Nowadays, or at any time, it'd be such an achievement. But I think it's mainly you've got to be quite an experienced yachtsman to be involved in it. But you might be able to get a guest pass on one of the boats or something. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Just a little bit of history there, and please subscribe, and I will catch you later. See ya.